Hey kids, join the club. Get the all-new CCXCC t-shirt made with 100% mutant power. Be like these cool kids. Get it now on dinobeast.com and chrisandersoncomics.com. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Chris Claremont X-Men Comic Club. With me as always is my good buddy and co-host, John Coates. John, how you doing, man?
I'm doing excellent today.
Awesome. We are going to get into some interesting stories here as our ex-buddies find their way to Japan. This issue, 118.
That is correct, sir.
Return of Sunfire, who is one of my favorite costume designs, I think, of all the X-Men ever created.
He's so great.
Yeah,
so great, and he never sticks around.
Nope, he never sticks around. That's why you pine for him.
Maybe he'll stick this time.
Maybe,
I don't know.
We'll see. But somebody's coming in and zapping him. Maybe he's gonna die. We just don't know.
That's right. So before we get into it, if we remember last issue in 117, we were given an awesome Professor X story with a great flashback to young Professor globetrotting the world and facing off against Amal Farouk, the Shadow King.
Mm-hmm.
And then basically our B story was the X-Men leaving the Savage Land via a little kind of flimsy raft they made, and then getting rescued by a big ship on its way to Japan.
Yes. On a secret mission. We still have no idea what that was.
Secret mission. They're not allowed to use the phone or the radio on the boat to call anyone.
Wildly, we found out through the classic X-Men issue last week that there was a little bit of a detour during the trip where Nightcrawler falls off of the boat and winds up on a desert island and somehow makes it back, and there's no mention of it. There's a lot of there's kind of like a significant time jump when we start this issue, because it's been like they mention how long it's been, but it's been like weeks that they were on this ship before they are able to get back to get to Japan.
Yeah, because they get picked up right at the bottom of South America.
Yeah.
And then they're slow boating across the entire Pacific Ocean to get to Japan. So that is not a fast trip.
No.
Yeah. So here we go. X-Men 118. Great 35-cent issue. Dave Cockrum on cover duty here.
Yeah. It's nice to see him, still around to some degree, doing the covers, giving us a callback of, the previous run that he had. And then you open it up to John Byrne.
Yeah.
Interestingly, this is not inked by Terry Austin. And I know I talk about inks a lot on this show, but it's pretty clear when you look at these that Terry Austin didn't ink it, and it's different. It's different. I'll say that.
Okay, well, definitely point out little ticks that you notice.
Well, it's just not as exciting. There's the details not there.
Okay. So here's our nice open splash page, and the X-Men on their boat heading to Japan. 6 weeks it took them.
6 weeks. Woo! Yeah.
So they should be well rested. Nice little vacation. I like how a lot of them have these matching sailors sweaters that they got from the crew.
Yeah, and actually they talk about in here how Scott really worked them the whole time. So not really a vacation.
Yeah. And all great little shot. Nightcrawler in the foreground here.
Yep. Good shot. A good shot of the crew that we've got now. And then as Byrne tends to do, this double page spread as we turn, and man, is that a good one.
Yeah. Right to the danger here, the submergence of Japan.
Yeah. Yeah, there's it's a really cool image. There is one thing that kind of got me where it talks about it being the city being 10 miles away, and that sure doesn't look like it's 10 miles away.
Yeah, it looks a little closer than that.
Yeah. Here, 1 second. I gotta grab the mascot here.
Okay.
Here she is. Abby wants to say hello.
Yes.
Hello. Okay.
Chris Claremont, John Byrne.
Yep.
Rick Villamonte is our guest inker here.
Yes.
And we got Tom Orzechowski on letters this issue. And of course, Glynis Wein on colors still.
Yep. Yeah, this is a really great shot. I love the crew in the foreground and Nightcrawler kind of hanging on the pole there. That's a really great shot. And then you got the city in the background, and then the way that he handles the the fire in the city after there's been an earthquake with this black smoke on the left. And you can see Mount Fuji there all the way on the left, but then he leaves all this negative white space that just feels, and then Glynis Wein goes in it with the red and fills it out, and it just feels like past this city limit, everything is on fire. It is so hot that it is lit the sky so that the detail of the smoke is gone and just awash in red. And it's really effective because it does open up all that area too, and lets it breathe.
Yeah, it really sells the idea of this sort of terrible, like Holocaust type scene here, this like utter devastation of this fire and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that lettering too of the submergence of Japan too. That just feels real nice.
Mm-hmm. So now the X-Men, they're getting ready. They need to get ashore so they can help people. And the captain says, "Hey, that's impossible because the harbor is full of wreckage, and so he can't risk it." And so Cyclops is like, "Okay, well, we're gonna get there on our own." We get this nice little Nightcrawler bamfing right here in the background.
Yep. That's a great shot.
Yeah, that always works. And Cyclops tells him to go teleport over and check things out. And he's like, "On my way, mein Chef." And he makes it, and he gives us, and he's sort of thinking to himself that like he's been training a lot, and he was able to teleport that far and not even get winded.
Yep.
Where we've seen in some past issues where he's tried to go sort of a greater distance and it's sort of knocked him out or he's unable to. So it's kind of a nice little moment of growth for Nightcrawler that he's getting tougher. He can handle his power a little better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then here comes since we got two flyers on the team, Storm and Banshee, they get the all clear and they bring everybody else on over to the shore. And they've got their gear here, and they're going to Shiro Yoshida's house, and that is Sunfire.
Yeah, I think it's funny to want to see the progression of these frames where you've got Storm kind of looking over the railing there, and then in the next frame, they're kind of in a hurry here. Next frame, she is in costume and Banshee, and dragging them all over by their arms. And then you get the next frame where they're getting dressed again in their civilian clothes. And And what do you think that this glow around Storm is supposed to be? Is it her just sort of powers, or?
You know, I'm trying to figure that out because early then some of the earlier issues we read, they dropped in this weird ability for her where she could mess with like the molecules of her costume and change it from like clothes to costume. You remember that?
Yes, I
It only
do.
happened like maybe once or twice, and then
Yeah.
they kind of dropped it. So it almost feels like they could be doing something like that, but we kind of see here she's in her with her sweater and stuff, and the next panel she's already in costume.
Yeah.
So it makes you think, well, she just sort of ditched those clothes and she's got her costume on.
Yeah. Because she remains in costume for
Yeah,
forever.
and then she just leaves it on even while like Banshee is putting his civvies back on.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I mean, she's saying that, you know, she's summoning a wind to kind of hold the fire back.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just a little reference to like that she's using her power even though she's not up in the air. I
Yeah.
guess would be my guess, you know, like
Right.
them trying to just show it as well as have her say it.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe that is what it is.
But that, I mean, that's a hard thing to try and show just from a character who's just standing, you know?
Right. Yeah. I think that the other choice that could have been made is her standing in some sort of concentration pose with her hands out, trying to, get control of the wind. Instead, they just kind of decided, or John Byrne decided to just kind of do this glow around her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
So Cyclops kind of brings us up to speed and also reminds us what they're doing or what they're trying to do, which is they're just trying to get a hold of Professor X. Basically, to let the professor know we did not die in Antarctica. We were in the Savage Land.
Yeah.
And we're okay. And the only way they can do it, they got to get to Sunfire's house so he can help them because they got no passports, no money. He thinks they have no other way to like get to a phone and get help. So they got to go to their X-Man buddy.
Yeah, they can't just get a phone anywhere.
Yeah, they'll get arrested, you know,
Yeah.
These foreigners. Yeah, so they're good. So, you know, they're not really going to help the people out if there's anybody, you know, the rescue teams. They're like making their way around.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually they get all the way up here to this hill overlooking the city, and we get again that good like red glow in the background of the fire.
Yeah, I love that silhouette panel up on the upper right too. It tells you everything you need to know. They're on an uphill journey. You know, the silhouette of those trees feel very Japanese, you know.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, great way to drop in just like a couple elements that are very like cultural, regional to like Japan, and then you're like, yes, that's where they're at.
Yep.
And the bottom of this page here, we get this great bit of new information about our man Wolverine here, where he's concerned that the city seems almost deserted. And he's looking at this piece of paper and says, the paper says most everyone was evacuated. Early warning signs of a big quake. And Cyclops is confused. And Wolverine says, look, bub, all I know is what I read in the newspapers. And Cyclops is like, you read Japanese? And he's like, yup. And his answer is like, I didn't know. And he's like, you never asked.
Yeah. Don't you know all Wolverines speak Japanese?
Yeah. Which, you know, that's another like cool mystery clue dropped, like, oh, this guy, he can speak Japanese too.
Yeah.
But also like his demeanor, like, oh, you never ask. Well, when is that going to come up in like a conversation with your teammates where they're going to be like, oh, what languages do you speak?
You speak Japanese? Just curious.
Yeah. But yeah, I like that like they it's like they need another character who could maybe help them in like the culture,
Yeah.
maybe story wise, and so like they give that to Wolverine.
Wolverine's the Swiss Army knife of characters.
Yeah, I think it probably helps since he's like was like a secret agent,
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's going to be either him or Banshee.
Right.
They're the like trained agent kind of guys, and Wolverine's more mysterious.
Yeah, exactly.
Those shady Canadians, as we all know.
Shadenadians, as we like to call them here in the States.
Exactly. And so here we go. Cyclops, he's got this hunch that the natural disaster isn't all that natural. And so he's like, we got to step on it, find Shiro, and then contact the professor. Which swings us into a nice little step away here where we get to see what the professor's up to. And if we remember 117, he agreed to leave Earth and go into space with his lady, Lilandra. And so here they are leaving orbit in the little awesome bug ship.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's still an odd choice for me that they put a single panel from the last scene at the top of a page. I don't know why. I'm curious as to why that's the choice for the rhythm.
Yeah, I wonder if it's just a simple matter of you ended up with too much to say and do that you just couldn't squeeze another panel in the previous pages.
Maybe, yeah. It's a question for the man, I guess, right?
Yeah. And so, here comes like the captain of the ship and letting her know they're about to go to warp and get out of here.
So where did this captain come from? Didn't she? I thought that she escaped and came to Earth on her own in that ship.
It must be a different ship.
Huh. So she just like summoned it and it came and now
yeah, I think that there's been like a ship sort of in Earth orbit waiting for whenever to take her back.
I see. Okay.
Because like they already know that she's going to become the Empress.
Right.
Once the paperwork of, deposing her brother goes through and then when she's ready.
Yeah. It also comes with its own hover wheelchair for Charles.
Yeah, look at this upgrade. Like, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he's living high already.
I mean, I know eventually he will get like a space age hover wheelchair in the 90s, but this is like the first time I think we're seeing anything like that.
Oh, good call, Chris. Yeah. Raw key first Xavier hover chair.
Yeah.
Mark it down. Collectors, issue
right.
118.
118.
And of course, he's still wondering, oh, did I do the right thing leaving Earth? Even though I know the X-Men are dead. And she's just like, hey, anyone who's left, let them live their lives. And you need to come live yours with me. Let's go. And so, like, okay, they're out of here. She put her foot down. And now we cut back to Japan. And here's our X-Men kind of creeping on Sunfire's awesome sort of ancestral manor complex down here. And they know there's also government limousines out front. So there's all kinds of important stuff going on at Shiro's house.
Yeah, they're taking the hardest road to a telephone that they possibly can.
Yeah, and I also question their approach here because if they just come down to the front, can't they just ask somebody and someone would get a hold of Shiro at least?
Yeah.
To be like, hey, we're friends. We know him.
Especially since Wolverine speaks the language,
Yeah. right?
Yeah, instead they're leaving themselves up to possibly being shot because they're being sneaky Pete's.
Yeah. But they're like, no, they're gonna take care of business.
It's not as dramatic, so I get
Yeah.
why.
American style, they're going in hard. Costumes on, Storm whipping up this fog. I really like this panel here where they just sort of leave it white.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's real effective, and you get this just little bit of this wall here, and the feathering of the inking along the bottom of the wall.
Yeah,
bricks.
mine's colored differently. That yours is much more effective.
And the soldiers are like, oh, what's going on? Is this like part of the firestorm that hit us? Now we're getting fog, and they're trying to sneak in, and then bam, intruder alert. We get this, the lights come on.
Yeah.
Great sort of negative highlights on them there,
Yeah, where it's just flooded with the light. Yeah, that's a fun one to ink. You don't got to do all the details, but you still got to draw the full figure, because then you just got to like light it.
Yeah, because you wouldn't know where to ink anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, super effective.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, so they got busted immediately, and they're going to face the wrath of the Lord of the Living Samurai, Sunfire.
What does that mean, Lord of the Living Samurai? He's
man. Like, if you don't know, I can't tell you. I can't believe that.
He's not the Lord of the dead samurai, just the living samurai.
Yeah, that means he's the top samurai on the island, I guess.
Just look at him. He's so awesome. Look at that costume. He's like Merman. He's just so rad.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fire merman.
So love it.
Yeah. Awesome. Every time you see Sunfire, I'm just like, yes, give me more.
I know.
And then 2 pages later, he ditches.
Yep.
Usually. So, of course, Cyclops has to be like, Sunfire, it's me, Cyclops, remember? Don't you remember? We're X-Men. It's us. And you get all these troops with guns surrounding them.
Yeah, they're ready to shoot.
Yeah, and then he kind of like gives it back to him. You don't know right away. He's like, the X-Men I remember do not skulk like thieves in the night. And it's like, oh shit, he's gonna let him get shot.
Man, he
like,
is
arrest them.
Yeah. He didn't get the whole like peaceful nature, post WW2 thing at all. He's pissed. He wants revenge. Screw every, American.
Yeah. He's mega pissed at all times.
Yeah.
But luckily, here we go. Misty Knight pulls rank on him. Leave him be, Captain Prime Minister's orders. So if we got to see Misty, I believe in issue 117, he hops on an airplane headed for Japan.
That's right.
Crosses paths with Jean Grey, who was going elsewhere. And
we didn't really find out what Misty is up to. I'm assuming that it is tracking along with the Iron Man. The Iron Fist Power Man book that's out at the time.
Yeah. And so now here she is in Japan. And Scott reminds us, what, that's Jean's roommate. Wonder what she's doing here. And so she's kind of like working with the Prime Minister of Japan and stuff.
Yep.
And she's like, they need the X-Men inside pronto. So it's going to be okay. And then a little interlude here. We get some shady truck pulling up outside with an assault team of some kind.
Yep.
And so now here we go. We're inside, and everybody's speaking Japanese. And Cyclops thinks to himself, I feel like a fool just standing here. I need an interpreter. Where's Wolverine?
Yep, he's disappeared.
Leaving him high and dry. So they're basically, all these people, they're basically like talking about like this whole earthquake situation that caused that firestorm that we saw. And that like all of Japan is being threatened. And we get here is Colleen Wing, who's also like Misty Knight's friend and also sort of another Iron Fist character.
She's her partner, right? At the in the would they have like a detective agency or something? Because Misty's not in the police force anymore.
Yeah,
right?
Misty's sort of like a PI, ultra PI spy kind of person.
Kind of doing what Iron Fist and Power Man are doing, except for they're more like superheroes for hire, right? And while she is a private investigator.
Cyborg for hire because of her metal arm.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And Colleen Wing is like a martial arts expert.
Got it.
So she's like the Iron Fist of the duo.
Gotcha.
And of course, Sunfire is arguing that like we don't need American superheroes to help. I can handle this situation all by myself. And which is, of course, a lie, and Colleen laughs at him.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Cyclops gets fed up. He's like, the heck with it. I'm going to go find a phone. And then Colleen, like, takes a minute to just think about how Scott's a good-looking man.
Yeah.
But pity he's spoken for.
Growl.
Yeah. And then he finds over here to the phone, and Misty's on the phone talking to our boy Danny Rand, Iron Fist.
Man with the coolest collar in comics, besides Deadman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great little. I love the little jagged phone call kind of.
Yeah, that's great.
Panel.
Classic.
Yeah.
Don't see that anymore, do you? Because people don't talk on the phone anymore.
Yeah, or they, they do like a cell phone thing, but they don't do that. Like, lame.
Yeah,
throw it in there.
It's all just text bubbles.
Yeah. And then so Cyclops is up. It's his turn to use the phone, and he's trying to think about what he's going to say to the professor and Jean. Oh, well, he thinks Jean and Hank are dead.
Right.
So he's trying to think like, what do I tell the professor that they're dead?
Yeah, exactly. I love how this bottom of this page just sort of cements the time that it's taking place in. I mean, you and I are old enough to remember a time when you had to, like, if you were somewhere, you had to wait for somebody to be off the phone at your house or whatever, and in fact, this is going to be a pair of very expensive phone calls.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
From Japan to the United States. So, he has to wait for her to be done so he can use the corded house phone.
I mean, I remember a time where if I was going to call you in California from where I'm at in Iowa, that would be an expensive phone call.
Exactly.
Yeah. I really love this whole kind of thing that's been happening for a few issues where the X-Men think Jean and Hank are dead, and then Jean and Hank and the professor think the rest of them are dead, and nobody's been able to like contact each other and figure out that nobody's dead. And it's like informing like now what they're doing with their lives, and they're all like going off and doing different things and stuff, and it's like breaking up huge parts of sort of like the team, all from this kind of misunderstanding. And I think it's just like a great device to just shake things up. I'm going with it. I just the only thing that kind of gets me is I just feel like if Jean is so powerful now, she would know. You know what I mean? But she's also, I think, trying to like
suppress her powers at the same time, you know, trying to distance herself as much as possible at this moment. So maybe that is, she doesn't want to feel all the feels. So maybe that's why she hasn't noticed anything.
Yeah. And, you know, maybe they haven't tried to reach out.
Yeah.
Because we know, like, the Savage Land was, like, somehow psychically shielded.
Right. Yeah. So once they got out, but by that time, she's already, you know,
Moved on
through a process of grieving.
Yeah. And the professor also. And, you know, they don't know that they were in the Savage Land or that happens in the Savage Land. So they're assuming, well, we couldn't find them. They actually are dead.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's all craziness. So here we go. Cyclops, after 6 weeks on the ocean, finally gets to call home, and the number has been disconnected and is no longer in service. Disconnected at the request of a Dr. Charles Xavier. And Cyclops says, "That's insane." And he's like, this shouldn't have happened. We have to get back there.
He even shut off the direct line to Cerebro.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
You can't do that. You cannot do that. And of course, here comes Banshee looking all cool. And I like the, you know, the sort of the Japanese kind of halls, like, you know, the sliding
the paper
doors
walls.
makes for great kind of backdrops. Quick little interlude here. Some guys opening up the back of a truck, and we see the feet of some yellow things.
Yep. Blue, if you're reading classic X-Men.
Oh, there you go. And then we kind of cut back to, meanwhile, up in the house. And here now we get some good Wolverine stuff here.
Yep. Where he wander.
Yeah, and he's telling us, "I was a punk kid last time I was in Japan. Never figured on coming back." But he does get back.
Yeah, so he was young when he visited there and learned all of his stuff.
And so he's in the garden because he likes little quiet spaces. And here's our first introduction of Mariko.
Yep. Look at that shadow image, that last panel. That's so good. I love when he puts people in the shadow like that.
Yeah. And she's like, "Oh, is someone there?" And like, yeah, he shows up in the shadow. He looks just like a straight, like, yeah, just like creeper, assassin, like scary figure. So she freaks out.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Oh, shoot." He's like, "Don't be frightened. I didn't mean any harm." And he's like, "Whoa, don't spook her. Don't spook her."
Yeah, I love the inner monologue that he's got there. You know, easy, fella, easy. Like he's taming a horse, but he's talking to himself, you know?
Yeah. And he apologizes, you know, and she's kind of calms down like, "Oh, no, it's okay." And we basically learned that she is Sunfire's cousin.
Right.
Yeah. And that, oh, she speaks well. And she tells him he speaks Japanese very well for an American. And he's like, "I had good teachers, but I'm not American. I'm Canadian."
I love that he clarifies it. That's great.
Yeah. And that, you know, he's one of the X-Men. And then like, she's like, "Oh, Shiro has spoken often of you with much respect. I am Mariko."
Well, that's interesting, being as he has shown nothing but disrespect to them since we've seen him.
Yeah, that is interesting. You know, like in private when they're not around, he's like, "Yes, I was one of the X-Men, and they were great." You know,
yeah,
I have much respect. But if they show up, he's like,
"Don't ever call me again, you assholes."
Yeah. And Wolverine, you know, is thinking to himself that like, "Ooh, Lord, she's beautiful." And he's about to actually tell her his real name because he's like, "Well, I'm called Wolverine." And she's like, "That's a name?" And he's like, "Oh, not really. Not between friends. My name is Low
Midnight."
And
so the people in the interlude that were in the truck said that they were going to attack at midnight. So that's why that little midnight there is important.
Yes.
Got a friend.
We got a little X-Men readers. They just come out of the woodworks, you know?
That's right.
Can't stop them.
You guys excited.
Yes. And boom, the whole place just looks like it's shaking like crazy. Mariko thinks it's an earthquake. Great panel there.
Yeah.
To just break up our nice, peaceful meet cute right there. Chris, are you familiar with the character of Mariko?
Sort of. I can picture her. I don't really know what her story is. I know that, you know, and I think, is it like the mini series that he goes back and to find her, and it's something to do with Silver Samurai, I think, and I'm not sure exactly.
Cool. Well, we will get there. And so Wolverine jumps to keep her out of harm and kind of grabs her, and then he starts using his claws to like cut up the tree that's going to fall on him. And he's saying, hey, there's nothing to worry about. And so he's like using his body to shield her, and the X-Men are like helping everybody else, and they're running out of the house. And the whole thing is collapsing down, and some of them are thinking it's an earthquake again. And there's an explosion of a wall that's still left, and it's not an earthquake, it's the mandroids.
Oh my god. Now here especially on the left-hand side, you can is where you can really tell that that it is not Austin on inks, especially when things get small. It gets murky and wonky, and it's got a heavy hand on it, and Austin would have been very detailed even in the small stuff. He sweated every little detail, so you can really tell. And in fact, like where her hair is coming down on that far left bottom panel, Austin would have put in like a double line, and that explosion would have been treated kind of the same way, first with a nib, a very thin nib, and then he would have highlighted areas with a brush. That's all.
Oh man, that's interesting. Yeah, and I definitely see what you're saying throughout when it gets small, like this banshee face.
Yeah,
over here.
Yeah, like, or Scott's face on that left panel that I was just talking about. His face his yell is very ape-like. But that's just a because he probably laid down the brush there, and the brush just did that.
Yeah. So here we go. Our mandroids.
These things are crazy.
Avengers 95.
Yep. So we've never seen these before.
No. Great name, Mandroid.
Yeah, I like the Mandroids. I like that name.
And interesting bringing in these sort of Avengers, villain kind of suits and stuff.
Yeah,
bringing them over to X-Men.
I like the drawing of the Mandroid there. Like the way that you see how the belly thing is sort of tilted and the shoulders are tilted the other way. It's called contrapposto, I think, right? Like just the way that the weight is carried on there. The wild thing about these Mandroids, though, is kind of look where their faces are of the people that are inside of them to where the shoulder is. And their neck is like 3 feet long in order to fit into that.
Yeah.
I just thought that was funny when I was reading it.
Yeah, these guys are really wide.
Yeah, it's a cool design. I almost just wish you didn't see their faces.
And this lead Mandroid tells them, we're to bring you back alive or leave you dead. The choice is yours. Because they're hired by some boss.
Yeah.
And of course, Sunfire says, "We are true sons of Nippon, monsters. We will never surrender. We will fight. And if any are to die in this place, it will be you."
Damn.
Yeah. Good. That's a good rebuttal there. And Cyclops is like, "Wait a minute. I kind of recognize these guys." And then, like, Sunfire just gets zapped.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the X-Men have to jump in.
Yeah, these guys aren't messing around.
No, and these are some tough suits. Ooh, also, look at this. Ooh,
Yeah.
look at this great Mike Zeck Shang-Chi ad. Oh, yeah.
That's great. That's a great drawing.
Yeah, Mike Zeck is so good. Always a big fan. So here's our Mandroid battle. Nightcrawler dodging around, bamfing out of the way so that they sort of shoot each other.
Yep, that's great. Great use of that gag from moment to moment gag. You know, where he gets out of there.
Yeah, Colossus coming in, trying to punch him, missing, and then getting decked and like getting decked way out of the fight, which has kind of been happening to him a bunch recently. And so then here comes Wolverine, and then he just like cuts right into them, right through their armor. And then Cyclops does this cool little pulse blast, to like to get through like their vibration pattern in their armor.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like, whoa, good thinking.
Yeah.
Scotty.
Yeah, he's doing some cool things with his laser beam in these issues here.
Uh-huh. And then here comes the Banshee coming in to sort of do another thing similar to Cyclops and take out this other guy.
Yeah, it's like Cyclops weakened the armor and Banshee is coming in with the final blow. So it's, you know, teamwork.
Yeah. And then Sunfire here is getting helped up by his cousin Mariko. And this one Mandroid is coming in saying, like, it's too late. I'm going to kill you, sucker. Oh, my God. Oh, my gosh. And so Sunfire unleashes on him and heats him up till he's all, like, super hot. And the dude just kind of laughs at him. And then all of a sudden, Storm puts freezing rain on him. And the sort of sudden combination there just like shatters the armor.
Anybody who lives in cold climate and drives on the roads know how that happens.
Oh, yeah, man. And so the Mandroids are destroyed. The guys that delivered them are like, we got to warn the boss. Get out of here. And this pothole, which is where Colossus landed, and this great scene where he just sticks his arms up and just rips the whole like drivetrain out of the truck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then he brings them back for the authorities to take care of them. And everyone's sort of recovering. And then all of a sudden a hologram pops up out of one of the out of one of the wrecked suits. And here is the big boss. Moses Magnum, master of the Magnum Force.
Dude, that is the greatest porn star name ever.
Yeah. Moses a Magnum.
Moses Magnum. Yeah, this guy's interesting.
And he gives the Prime Minister of Japan an ultimatum. He has to be made the absolute ruler of all Japan. And if he's not, then at midnight tomorrow, he's going to sink Japan.
Damn.
Boom. And that is the end of X-Men 118 on a nice little cliffhanger. The battle is not over.
No, it is not. Next issue, 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. Oh my. So
yeah.
It's I guess it's December in Japan.
Well,
let's take a look at the classic version, shall we?
Oh yes, please.
Okay, let's pull her up. Yeah. All right, there we go. Cool cover here. Now you can really see how long that neck is in that cover.
That's not an Adams cover, is it?
That is not an Adams cover. So we're moving on from Adams. This is, who did the cover here? Oh my gosh, where is it? Kerry Gammill.
Oh.
With Terry Austin inking. So yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And we'll go along. Everything here is the same as our regular issue, and then we get this this cutaway.
Oh, they're gonna check in with Jean, huh?
Yeah, we're gonna check in with Jean, and Jean is vacationing in Greece. Somebody has stole all of her belongings, everything that she owns, and she's going to kind of report it to the police. And the police are just like, yeah, call your bank and call everybody, and it'll come here in a few weeks, and that's basically it. And so she's not happy about it and kind of storms out, and she runs into this handsome gentleman who's kind of like, hey, excuse me, but I couldn't help but overhear your conversation. And there, if you're in some trouble, I should very much like to help. So somebody is about to come in and give her a little hand. And so that's kind of where they leave it for this issue, for the main story anyway. And I think that is the only added page, I believe. Yeah. And then we'll cut back again to this John Bolton story at the end, to where we'll jump a little bit back in time. So she's on this island in Greece and kind of just hanging out, got her stuff here. And these kids come up and push her into the water and steal all of her stuff. So she goes to the police, and the scene that we just saw, and comes back out. And then again, this guy says, excuse me, I couldn't help but overhear your conversation. If you're in some trouble, I should very much like to help. And so, she says, I've been robbed of everything I possess. And he introduces himself and says, let me take you to lunch. And she says, how can I refuse under the circumstances? So, they're kind of hanging out here, and he's flirting a bit. She's flirting a little bit back, and he says, why don't you? I've got a place for you to stay. You don't want to sleep out on the beach every night. It's romantic for one night, but after that, it's terrible. And she's like, it's turned into, this has been such a lovely day. Please don't spoil it. You're trying to sleep with me. And he's like, no, it's all good. I just really want to help. I've got a room to offer, and I just ask your friendship, leave the rest of the fates. And then we cut back to these kids that stole their stuff, and they gave it to this guy, and he throws her stuff into the fire. He pays the kids some money, and turns out that this is Mastermind, and it is this Nikos guy in disguise. So he's messing with her.
Freaking Jason Wingard.
So we're kind of setting up. We have been kind of setting up the Hellfire Club, right? In the in these backstories, even though it hasn't really shown up yet.
What an a-hole! Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, because we had the Sebastian Shaw stories added in the classic X-Men, which he hasn't showed up yet, and then now we have him. And so he wants to kind of, turn her into the Black Queen, and he's going to kind of seduce her here. And yeah, he gives her some clothes and she's like, I don't like this. I feel like a bimbo. And he's like, no, you look great. What are you talking about? And he's like, well, you wear it then. So they kind of go out.
It's funny.
On the town. They go scuba diving, and as she's like hanging out with him more and more, she's all of a sudden starting to feel like she kind of likes him, and nature takes its course. But then she starts having bad feelings about it because of Scott, and all that stuff, and he's like, the celebration of Aphrodite is happening in town. It's a time for lovers, and it's a celebration where you laugh and live. So come laugh and live and love with me. And so they go out for a night on the town. This was a very interesting panel, I thought, because it's very clearly like you found a picture of people dancing at probably this actual festival in Greece, and then just traced it. It feels like a Photoshop filter, like to make it look like pen and ink was just put on it. But obviously Photoshop doesn't exist then. He lightboxed it. But it's kind of jarring because, he doesn't really draw exactly that way.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting.
Yeah. Then they go out to the some ruins here, and he's like, hey, this is the place to celebrate the gods. How great it must have been to, have humans as their playthings, and you could be, how wonderful it would be to have that power. And she starts talking about, mutants wouldn't have to hide anymore if, we were acted that way. We'd be hated no more. No more X-Men would have to die. And she kind of floats off, and he's like, would you not be more wondrous? That would not be the most wondrous of would that not be the most wondrous of worlds, worthy of any price to bring about? And she says yes, and she floats off. And says, mutants are the modern gods, Jean. If you would but pick up the mantle. And she fires it off, and she's like, I am the Phoenix. Ooh. And she starts talking big, and she's like, wait, no, that's not me. I'm a human being. I'm Jean Grey. And he says this funny line. He says, Lord, love a duck. Poor darling Psyche's more fragile than I imagined, which is more good fortune than ever I hope and than I ever hope for. With Jean Grey's corruption comes my total victory over the X-Men. And make no mistake, my sweet beauty, you will be mine. So, and he says, you already are the Black Queen.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's what's happening while they're in Japan. And you get this cool little, never before seen art from John Byrne and Terry Austin circa 1980 of a Sentinel attack.
That's cool.
Yep, that's pretty cool. Okay. And then you get this cool Paul Smith from 1982 of Angel chained up and them coming to go get him.
Ooh, nice. Must be like an unused cover.
Must be. And then
I can't wait till we get to some Paul Smith. Ooh, Paul
check out Smoking Jean Grey in her dominatrix uniform back here, and the Mastermind. Loving it.
So there is there's definitely a future issue where we're going to have ourselves a Mastermind discussion when we get to it.
Okay.
Because there's a lot to talk about and get into about the Mastermind and stuff. So that's all I'm going to say. Okay. We'll save it for when we get to this certain issue. But
okay.
Yeah, okay. That freaking guy.
That freaking guy. I don't know why we're saying that, but that freaking guy.
Yeah.
And that is issue 118.
118
of the Uncanny X-Men. Awesome issue. Well, stay tuned to find out where to get John's comics and my comics, and you will see a speed drawing of the thumbnail for the episode, which is always available. The original is always available for purchase on my website. And until then, John, what do you want to say to everybody?
Just have a good week, read more comics, and be excellent, everyone.
Awesome. Later. Check out DinoBeast.com for all things John Coates like Dino Beast, Ninja 4, MLF, Berserker, and more. ChrisAndersonComics.com is where it's at for books like Chaotic Neutral, Spectral, A Showcase of Fear, Lost Angels, and more, plus apparel and original art. Also a link to Patreon where you can read Three-Headed Pig Man now. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. We'll see you next time on the Chris Claremont X-Men Comic Club.